I get asked all the time about, a little bit of my history, of the story of where I come from. And it's a little bit unbelievable, unique. And some people think I'm crazy when I tell the story, but some people are amazed of the story too. So let's talk about the story today, where I come from. Obviously, here's a picture of thinking that I'm probably about 6 years old. I don't know if you guys can see. Literally, there's no shoes. It's something uncommon on back in those days. That little belly. That little belly is lacking nutrition. So, obviously, just having food to eat, it was a little challenge. But just so you know, this does not describe how happy of a kid I was back in the days. Because I was a happy kid despite this circumstance. Uh, Something on that age, also on that around that age, that for us to go to school, we had to walk about an hour, just to 45 minutes to an hour to go to school, and then come back. And then if I say that I had a job at 6, 7 years old, you probably say, no, I did. So 6, 7 years old, I had a job cleaning a little shop, and just cleaning every day. You go there after school. So you walk for 45 minutes, you come back 45 minutes, and then you go another 45 minutes to go to work and come back. It's a small town, but you had to walk the whole town just for me to go to school, home, and work, and have a good time. And despite I was 7 years old, do all that, I was a happy kid, and that translated all the way into probably 10, 11. And this is, I might get a little emotional here because it is a little real, but so I'm about 10 years old, and one day I come home and my mom is crying, and I didn't know why I was crying. And I went and asked him, what's wrong? What's going on? And she told me, well, we had no money to eat. And that was the time that I realized, man, I guess this is not as good as I thought it was. Despite the situation, I was happy, but that day I realized that we had no money. We had nothing to eat. And then that day I was like, wow, okay. So when I'm 10, 11 years old, guess what? The first thing I went and get a second job, which means go sell ice cream bars. And then guess what? Go work in a restaurant. And I want to work in a restaurant on the weekend just to bring food. So I'll go there and getting a cheeseburger back in the days. It was like getting a prime steak probably today. So just be able to bring a hamburger to my mom. And then when I got those 2 additional jobs, I told my mom, look, don't worry about me. I don't know what I can give you, but I'm okay. And the only thing I was trying to do that day is taking pain away from my mom, because that pain, it really resonated with me. And that was the first time I realized, wow, this is not as simple as we think we're good, but we're not. So taking pain away from my mom by just be able to add more into food, but also more money. And yes, I'm 10, 11 years old, and go to school for 40 minutes, go back, go to work another 40 minutes, and have played maybe a little bit in the evenings, and on the weekends, go carry a little box with ice cream, and you got about 2 hours to sell them before they melt. I was, I don't know if it was, I play with this because I say this is my first sales. I've been trying to be funny with this, but I can barely lift the box like this. So lifting the box, it was so heavy. And they see this kid, no shoes, lifting the box. And with that face, I saw all the ice creams just within minutes, not minutes, but walking through the street, and people feel so sorry for me that I finished all the ice cream bar were sold. They were like, whoa. So ironic, it took me a couple of times to figure it out that people feel sorry for me. So that's why they got the ice creams. And then I realized they see my face like this. And then maybe after a couple of times, I exaggerate a little more. Like, and guess what? That was my first sales as a service. Yeah, so I call that first salesman. So yeah, so that phase helped me sell the ice cream bit. I think people just have sympathy or feel sorry this kid who just can barely live that and selling ice creams. So that was that. But on the weekends, working on the hamburger place, I think I connect to that family really well, and they notice that that was a little different. So those family always have a special place to live because they see a hungry kid, they just wanted to work. And of course, and then you go a couple years later, and then I turned 13 years old. And right when I turned 13, 14, I come to the States. And just so you know, back then, just to get a pair of shoes, you got to work the whole year, just to have a pair of shoes. So think about perspective, right? Like perspective, opportunity, no money to eat. You got 3 jobs and you barely survive to eat, but no, you just are. We have one pair of shoes, work, and every day in school and weekends, it was one pair of shoes. You had to shine them, and that's it. But just buy a pair of shoes, it was a challenge in eating. And so when I come to the States, age 14, started working. I work and then that's the first time I see, wow, this is what opportunity look like. Working on the farms at age 14, I had no chance. They didn't ask, you want to go to school? For me, it was just years work, and I was happy because now you can make a difference. So talk about, come work on the farms, 14 years old, and that was a hard job. I call that sweat and cold. I don't know if you people ever experience that, but sweat and cold means you put your body through whole thing through the day that could be very cold, and your body's just reacting and you're sweating. So that happened to me 2 or 3 times a week because I worked so hard through those 14, and everybody probably did I used to probably almost double the work, no matter what. Only 14, I double up an adult man. So because you knew that could make a difference. So that's when I say, wow, this is where you can make a difference. But talk about perspective, right? So when I say grateful, respected, humble, well, that's my story about how you go about, you come in here, and some people might feel entitlement about something, or they deserve something, but also, remember where you come from, because that's gotta keep you ground to be grateful. And I got this thing I always say, the more grateful you are, the more happy you are. And just because when you're grateful, you view things differently, and that gives you a different perspective, and you appreciate things more, from whether it's a relation, a job, or anything there, they give you a ground to say, man, I appreciate it. And me, I was not good at expressing all the time, but could have done a better job expressing those feelings. But I know deep inside, I'm always grateful. So that's when I say, somebody say, this is the worst thing I say. Somebody say, man, this is difficult. And this, I used to tell these people, define difficult. I want you to define what difficult is, because what you might think is difficult, somebody else might see it as an opportunity. And that's what I say, careful when you say difficult. To me, that's just perspective. 40 years later, we have a company here that trains and develops mindset, service, communications, attitude. So that's a little bit of the culture that we're trying to implement here at Power Pro, because that's defined in the culture here, but also in me, knowing that, willing to serve or help somebody, and always have a smile, and be grateful that you have an opportunity. And I come from that angle about provide good service, have the right mind, serve people, and always have a smile, and see things for opportunities. So that way you always see opportunities. So that a little bit of it. But I thought this picture, something cool. I used to have blonde hair, believe it or not. And yeah, that's a pretty good, that's a real picture. By the way, this is my brother, that's my sister, and here's our home. Okay, and so to me, opportunity, difficult, attitude, you tell me, how do you see it? Because how you see it, that's how you're gonna go about it. So that's the story of today.
Power Pro. Great people, great service.